So Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General of the United States, announced this week that she will be seeking the death penalty in the case against Charleston, South Carolina murderer Dylann Roof. Roof, you will remember, committed what by my definition, and I think many others, is an act of terrorism, murdering 9 members of a Charleston church, attempting the murder of 3 others, and was clearly an attack based on religion and race, murdering or attempting to murder these people gathered at worship. If that isn't an act of terrorism, I actually don't know what is. The courts can decide is he mentally ill or not mentally ill and what role that should play. But as Attorney General Lynch said, this is a case in which seeking the death penalty is entirely appropriate. What do you think about that? Personally, I understand perfectly what she's talking about, and it emotionally resonates with me very deeply. And yet, I don't agree with her. You see, I am opposed to the death penalty, and the opposition I have to the death penalty is not based on the political circumstances of the murderer. My opposition, and I believe anyone's opposition or support, can't be driven by politics, and that is one of the things that I praise Attorney General Lynch for. You see, she has long believed that the death penalty is an appropriate or can be an appropriate response to specific crimes. She said so in her testimony confirmation hearings before the Senate, and she's agreed with the court's decision to seek the death penalty, not in a federal case in her jurisdiction, against Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the Boston Marathon bomber. So it seems entirely appropriate that here, when it was in her authority, she would also seek, in the case of this terrorist, as Tsarnaev, the death penalty for Dylann Roof. Now, I understand all of that logic goes out the window if you believe that the death penalty is simply a form of legalized murder, or that people have no right under any circumstances to take a human life. I don't believe that. I believe there are things worth fighting for. There are things worth tragically and necessarily killing for in this world. But I don't believe it's the purview of the courts. I believe there are things for which the death penalty should be the penalty we have on the books, but not the policy or practice that we actually have to play out. There is an ultimacy about deliberately taking a life in that way, a demand for perfection which is beyond human capacity, that I simply don't think makes it the right thing to do. But whether you agree or disagree, I think this is one of those cases where the Attorney General's behavior and decision-making is something from which all of us can learn. The bottom line is, in seeking the death penalty for Dylann Roof, as she supported seeking for Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, as she said she believes it is an effective punishment under certain circumstances, Attorney General Lynch reminds us that our decisions pro or con about the death penalty should be above politics. They shouldn't be driven by the emotions connected to a specific story. They should be driven by an awareness of what it means to take another life, because the life we are taking has taken yet other lives. There is legitimate room for debate about that. It is never appropriate to politicize it. And if that is the takeaway at this moment from the Attorney General's decision, then whether, like me, you're generally opposed to the death penalty or find yourself supportive of it, we have a lot to learn and a lot of ways to move forward the cause of justice in the United States of America.